shocked how big the favoritism was when Sean stole $200 in cash from Mason's wallet, and instead of making Sean give it back, their dad told Mason to let it go and to forgive Sean, simply because he was younger and less understanding. Fast forward to today. Kyle's school had an award ceremony that Kyle would be presented an award at. The ceremony was virtual, and was essentially a large group video call where the kids would be recognized for their academic achievements, and there was a raffle for several prizes. Kyle was excited because one of the prizes was a game system he wanted. Parents were invited to join in on their own computer to get an extra entry for raffle prizes on behalf of their children. I wasn't going to be able to make it as I had work, but I told my husband to just drop in and watch them read Kyle's name, as well as stick around so Kyle could have a slightly better chance at getting the prize he wanted. Again, this was a virtual event. All that my headache-causing husband had to do was go to the website and sit there for less than half an hour. He said he'd do it no problem. On the day of the event, I reminded him before I left for work to make sure he showed up. I sent him the invite link again while I was at work just to be sure he had it, and he assured me he'd be there. Well, the event came and went. Kyle was in his room on his own laptop for the event, and my husband never joined the group call. I was busy at work, so I couldn't message him back until almost an hour after the event ended. I asked how it went. He replied, "Oh yeah, the event. Sorry, I forgot about it, not gonna lie, I saw red." I was furious, but I wanted to wait until I got home to talk to him. So I get home and see our oldest son Mason's car in our driveway. He does not live with us anymore. He is in college and has his own apartment. I walk inside and our youngest Sean is in the living room looking upset. I ask him what's wrong, and he says the other boys are fighting with Dad. I asked what happened, and he said he doesn't know, just that Kyle got really mad and called Mason when he told Kyle that he and my husband went to get frozen yogurt earlier. I asked what time they went, and he told me. It was 10 minutes before Kyle's event. At that moment, Mason, Kyle and my husband all come down the stairs. They're yelling, and Mason has a duffel bag with Kyle's things. I asked what was happening, and Mason said he's taking Kyle with him to stay at his apartment for a while. I told him Kyle can stay the night, but he can't just move in with him. My husband said that Kyle is not leaving and he needs to talk to him privately. But Mason blew up on him. He said everyone knows Sean is his favorite and he couldn't tell Sean to wait 30 minutes before taking him to get yogurt. That's when I realized my husband never forgot about the event, he just deemed taking Sean for frozen yogurt was more important. At this point, Kyle joins in and says that he's tired of his dad always choosing Sean over the two of them and he wants to stay with Mason. My husband was apologizing and saying he doesn't choose Sean over them, he just made a miscalculation. Mason spoke up, saying you always just make mistakes that leave me and Kyle on the back burner, and told him to try to remember the last time he did something with either he or Kyle alone. My husband listed 2 events. Mason reminded him that Sean tagged along for both. My husband said they're family and of course he's allowed to go with them. Kyle shouted back that my husband has taken out-of-town trips with just him and Sean 7 times in the last year and a half. And he was right. Sean got visibly upset at this point. Mason said he was sorry and that this wasn't about anything Sean did wrong. That it was their dad's fault and not his. Sean went upstairs to his room. My husband started going after him and Mason said, "See? You've got 3 upset sons and you still run off to cuddle Sean." My husband said that's not true, he's just more sensitive than the other boys. Mason told him he wants so badly for Sean to be his only son that he can have his wish. He said not to call or text him or Kyle anymore and that they don't have a dad anymore. Kyle added, "You already act like we don't exist anyway." My husband's face dropped. The way he was neglecting our 2 older boys finally hit him. I was a sobbing mess. I could see the hurt in both my sons' eyes. I told them to stay so we could talk and find a solution. Kyle begged me to just let him leave, saying he didn't want to be in the house anymore. Mason hugged me and assured me he'd make sure Kyle got his school work done and he'd call me tomorrow. I let them go. As much as I want Kyle here, I know he needs time away from my husband. My husband went to the kitchen and cried. He's never been an emotional man, but the reality of our 2 older boys wanting to go no contact with him finally knocked some sense into him. I wanted to yell and scream at him. I told him for years that he needed to stop favoring one child. All he had to do was show up one goddamn time for Kyle. I'm so angry. Instead, I told my husband that I love him and I know he's hurt, so I'm not going to yell at him. But I told him I love my children more and that if he didn't fix things with his boys and start treating them equally from this moment forward, I would be divorcing him. He just said I don't want to lose my family. He started to get up, saying he should make sure Sean was okay. I told him I would check on Sean and for once he needed to think of his other sons. I admit I was passive-aggressive, but my blood was boiling and I was trying my best not to tear my husband down any more than my son's parting words had. I spent the next hour consoling Sean and reassuring him that his brothers don't hate him and that their issue is with my husband, not him. He said they won't text him back and I said he needs to give them time.